Welcome to another episode of Mr. Therapist and the Counselor Podcast, a podcast where we discuss mental health and recovery topics, and our mission is to have honest, raw, and authentic conversations to demystify the process of therapy. I'm Manny Romero. Jesse O.
This week on the podcast, we're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about technology. We're going to talk about all these things that impact our mental health. Talk about a digital detox.
Remember to subscribe to the channel. Follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, on Spotify, on podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Give us a follow, man. Help us out. Help us spread the word. We want to continue to grow the following to reach more people.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing my hair.
Yeah,
bud.
I'm focused on it, but yeah. Here we are.
Here we are. Here we go. We're here.
No, let's go.
Here we go.
What's up, man?
You don't like let's go.
I don't. Yeah, what's going on?
Not much, dude, you know?
This is June.
This is June gloom.
June gloom.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it is. I was thinking about the other day because there's April showers. What's May?
April showers. It's got a rhyme.
April, no.
May gray, June gloom.
It's May gray. No, April showers. That's it. I'm pretty sure.
Oh. Yeah. I don't know.
What's going on, man?
Dead air.
The silence.
The
Sit
silence. With it. So you were telling me about
Wait, hold up.
Yeah.
What's the line, bro?
Oh, how you showing up today, bro?
Yeah, I put how you're checking in. How you showing up?
Wait, shouldn't we? I feel like we should do like banter first, then how you checking in, then the time session.
We could have talked about this off the podcast.
Well, we're talking about it on the podcast.
We're in it. We're in it now.
So how you checking in today, bro?
How am I checking in today? Today I am content. I'm stable, motivated, energetic. Yeah, I mentioned that my daughter had started preschool, and boy, that shit hurts.
I mentioned it, and you shut me down.
I shut you down. I said I want to discuss it a little bit. I want to process it a little more.
Yeah.
Give it some weeks.
Different month.
Exactly, dude. But I tell you what, the daycare has like cameras.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at?
I think so. My brother. It's like, I'll tell you what, my brother.
But it has cameras, and
that's kind of cool, by the way.
It is cool, but it also, if you're not doing anything at the time, which I was not doing anything on the time, the very first day she went, and you have to watch your child like struggle and miss you, and I have my own abandonment issues, which bleeds into my parenting, I think sometimes negatively. That was such a hard watch. I really struggled with it. I remember even like crying. Yes, I was very emotional on like leaving her somewhere with people that I don't really know, even though they're professionals. And like I said, there's a lot of there's a camera there. It was one of the hardest things.
Right.
Fortunate enough, like the day right after the next day, she did better. She still struggled a little bit, but man, it's a hard thing, man, to see this thing that you want to protect, this innocent creature child, and you're putting her out slowly into the world where she can be hurt in different ways, or even like the idea if she had any thoughts of like, my parents have left me, my parents are always there. Am I overthinking it? Yeah, but child development is like super important.
Isn't that the parent thing to do though, to overthink?
Yes, I think so.
Especially nowadays, I feel like the new parents, I feel like they go by generations, right? Like parents before were really worried about like succeeding or excelling or pushing your kid to certain areas of life, and then now parents are like, man, how am I want to not mess up my child the way that my parents messed me up, and
I think that we'll kind of even talk about that later when we start the clock, about the idea of just like the overload of increased knowledge that we have now, and how that's almost does us a disservice, in a lot of ways.
So you talked about how you were doing nothing when you took your daughter to preschool, right?
Yeah.
So my wife works. She's a preschool teacher, and she's always told me whenever I take my my daughter to school, sometimes I'll take her and then I'll go to the gym and then I'll go to work. So I'll be in my gym clothes, and she's like, "Are you gonna go drop her off in your gym clothes?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, oh, don't do it. I was like, why? She's like, because like some teachers like judge that like they feel like
Really?
Yeah, like you're dropping off your daughter to go to the gym. You're dropping off your daughter to like go do some
Really?
like self-care.
I guess
So,
I can see that.
like-
But at the same time, it's like it's a business, you know. So like,
Yeah,
whatever you
yeah.
want to do, if you just want to go sit at home and play video games, I'm like, it's your money you're spending on that.
But I never
so.
thought about that. I was like, oh yeah, the teachers are judging us for
Yeah.
what we're doing.
How you showing up today?
Good. Dude, I've been struggling, bro, with
Yeah.
this like illness that I have.
Mhm.
But I've been pushing through it. Showing up a little bit guilty. Because do you ever get that dad guilt of like? So my wife is staying home with the kids right now, and she wasn't feeling very well. So she's like, she knows that like I'm gonna be gone for a few hours, and I was like, "What are you gonna do today?" She's like, "I don't know." I'm like, she's like, "I might put on a movie for the kids and just like, wait, and then put them to sleep and wait till you get home." So I just felt a little. I'm coming in with a little bit of dad guilt.
Man, I have that every time we record. So
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, it's hard, dude. We put our families on hold a little bit for the show.
A little bit
so.
for this passion project.
Yeah.
So it's yes, I I totally understand
Yeah.
guilt, dad guilt, shame, all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Ladies, it's worth it. Guys, give us a follow, please. Let us show our wives the numbers are trending upward.
That's right. Help us, please. So we have reasons to. You making any money from this thing yet? That's what I hear every single day. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm easy eating you, dog. I'm making all the money from the podcast.
God.
And I'm feeding you like.
Can I be the Ice Cube of this then? I'd love to be the Ice Cube.
Why?
He was the
What?
real smart one. Like he
Was
started to
he?
realize like Easy and Jerry, the manager, I can't remember his last name, but like when they formed NWA, like he started to see quickly like Easy was able to like do all these things financially, and he wasn't getting any money from stuff. Like he's like, I wrote a bunch of these songs.
Oh, you're totally an Ice Cube,
Yeah,
dude.
yes, dude.
Yeah.
Cube is the man.
So talking about this,
Hip
look
hop.
at that hip hop.
And mental health and
Mental
addiction.
health and-
If we could finally talk about this.
Yeah.
You know, throughout the year,
Yeah.
a time in our podcast, we brought up different things. We've talked about Wu-Tang Clan. We've talked a lot of different hip hop topics.
Casey
think.
and JoJo.
Yeah, Casey and JoJo. Right? But I wanted to make mention of this is that recently in the last month or so, Eminem, 16 years sober.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't think he like publicly talks about. Well, I mean, I haven't seen him publicly talk about his sobriety. He obviously, I mean, maybe not obviously, but a number of his albums when he first got clean, like it was recovery.
Yeah.
He did. He focused on like being sober, and
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Good for
right?
you, Eminem.
Yeah, man. Congratulations,
go.
Marshall
Yeah.
Mathers. So
Yeah.
he was. It was interesting when I was using. I remember one of the albums he had put out. I think it was it Relapse? Now I don't know if it was like Relapse. Does he have an album called Detox? No.
Yeah. It's called Relapse.
Yeah.
One.
And I remember that album. There was a certain song on it. It's called Hello. That he was describing like taking different types of like opiates and benzos and just pills in general.
Yeah.
And I remember like listening to it and how like it really struck a nerve with me, like a negative. Like, well, actually, probably at the time because I was so loaded, I was like, dang, I relate with this song so much. And I remember when I got clean from that stuff, I remember like hearing it. It was almost like a trigger of it just took me back, and it kind of gave me like an anxiety. I remember almost having a panic attack over that song one time. But yeah, he 16 years clean. I think that's incredible.
That's amazing.
It is. It really is. So
Did you ever see that show of him and 50 being on like BET show? I think it might have been 106 in Park, where he's like he looks totally out of it, and they're like interviewing him. He's like a guest on the 106 in Park show.
Yeah.
I think it's 106 in Park, and they showed him the clip of it, and he's like, I don't even remember that day.
Yeah. No, I didn't see that, but I mean, yeah, he's quite a great story, I think, to follow, at least with that. So, but yeah, big shout out to him. He's an inspiration when it comes to sobriety for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Good stuff, dude.
Yeah. Also, I thought since we were gonna have our hip hop segment today, we should probably talk about happened a little while back with the Drake and the Kendrick Lamar beef.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If you're not following that, and maybe you don't listen to podcasts to listen to hip hop, and
Yeah.
maybe just to mental health and addiction, but
What is it?
what is the
yeah.
So they basically were going back and forth. They were dropping like diss tracks back and forth on them, like kind of back in the day, like revisiting the Tupac and Biggie stuff. It's gotten pretty brutal, as they say. Most definitely, like, got very personal. Talked about family. Like Kendrick Lamar talked about, like, Drake possibly having a gambling addiction, maybe an issue with drugs. Also some very inappropriate things that I don't, I don't know if there's like truth out there to it. There might be a little bit of truth, but they really went for the jugular. They've discussed family members, so I was just so fascinated with lyrically how much you can cut somebody down. But I guess I also realized how impactful words can be, right? So
yeah, for
I mean,
sure. They're artists.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, but it's I think I wanted to bring it up. Just it ties into this conversation that we're gonna have today as well. But I also it brought up to me, like, it reflected on a question you asked me on a recent podcast, like Biggie or Pac, right? Like, who do you go with? And I remember how that all ended. And words are damaging, you know, and unfortunately a lot of times with, I'd say, men in general, like, we just get where our egos can be involved, and it can be a tricky thing. I just hopefully this doesn't get like physical or violent. It's quite dramatic and entertaining to listen to, and these guys are super talented at what they do. So
did they ever find out who killed Pac?
No.
I feel like they do.
I think there was
know,
actually,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it did here recently. There was at least they arrested some people.
Was it? And Diddy was involved, right? Wasn't Diddy involved?
I don't know.
I think Diddy was involved, dude. Like, we got to look this up, but I think Diddy was involved in paying someone. I don't know. I don't want to. Allegedly, there you go. That word covers you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Involved in paying someone for Pac's head.
I guess I could. I mean, there was that whole connection with him and
the
Biggie
whole
Smalls, so.
And the whole Diddy stuff, dude. Isn't that crazy? We haven't talked about that.
We haven't. I don't really have a lot of information on that, except for I know, like, there's some, like, is there sex trafficking involved with that?
So there's, like, accusation of sex trafficking. There's some people that think that, like, Diddy has a lot of information on certain politicians and certain pastors that are really big, because like, he has video cameras in rooms and apparently parties that were crazy stuff.
I've heard something about the Diddy parties, like little references online.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to say about the Kendrick Lamar thing and Drake, before tying into the subject, but once again, just it's maybe more of a question. Like, do you think that I don't know, what is your take on people performing at that level and, like, kind of just basically like talking shit, or just, like, it's, do you think it's like there's conflict, right? But do you think that, like, it's almost a dangerous thing? Are they, like, teetering on something that could lead to, like, something that's very violent? I mean, they brought up, like, each other's kids and significant others, and
that sucks. I don't like that, you know.
Like I said, it's quite entertaining to the listener, because you're just like, wow, these guys are. It's like watching, like, maybe a boxing fight or MMA fight. Where you're like, these guys are scrapping verbally right now. So
we talked about Canelo and Oscar De La Hoya, right? It's entertainment, right? And so
there's a selling point to
there's
it.
an aspect to selling. How much of it is it real beef? I have no idea. I'm not in those worlds, right? To know. And then the parties, are they responsible enough to keep it entertainment and to not move beyond that, right? To violence. So is there any danger? Well, I guess when you're dealing with humans, like, there's always the capacity to take it overboard, right? To cross a line. And so, I mean, there's potential, I guess, but I don't think I associate directly, like, this is dangerous. I think I look at it, like, from an entertainment point of view more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my fear is always, like, when it gets maybe too real and, like, you just don't want anybody to actually get hurt or somebody.
Right.
The worst case scenarios. I guess because I've seen it. I've seen that happen.
Right.
Where, like, people are just kind of joking around, and all of a sudden
things were more dangerous back then. I feel like words were more dangerous back then, right? Like,
I don't know.
That was a violent time.
Maybe
dude.
there's more of an awareness.
Maybe.
Today of, like, hey, we know what could happen, so let's at least use that frame of reference of, like, how serious this can get.
Right. Yeah.
But when you've got, like, you got egos being challenged, like I said, like, we could start seeing red, and we don't really look at, like, this is just two artists making music.
Right.
Now this is turned into, like, we're talking about each other's personal lives.
Right.
So Yeah.
It's just do these people have the capacity, the coping skills to manage the red, manage the anger?
That's well said. Yeah. Well said.
Let's start the clock. You don't got a clock though, brother.
Damn, dude, where's my clock? Get my clock, please. So this week on Mr. Therapist and the Counselor podcast, with the time session starting the clock here, we're going to talk about, or let me reference back to an episode we did a while back. We talked about social media, how it's done us dirty. And in that episode, we leaned on the idea of like our, awareness. I think I have a huge self-awareness, maybe just working in this field, interacting with therapists, focusing on mental health. But in some ways, I think self-awareness can be a negative thing, and I think that technology and social media has most definitely breeded almost this over self-awareness, which I think impacts us negatively. I mean, We're just discussing right now, like, taking my kid to daycare, and we did an episode about quiet on set. You think about all the worst case scenarios. So it's important to revisit like social media, and also we were just to go into the conversation. We just talked about Drake, and we talked about Kendrick Lamar. Even part of their whole situation, there were suggestions that like Drake used AI technology to like. Yeah, he did. He used AI technology to use the altered voice of Tupac Shakur, who's passed away, and Snoop Dogg, who's still alive and well, and putting out all kinds of products left and right. I think he recently just put out an ice cream. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, but a point being, it's just like in the conversation I want to have with you today regarding mental health and addiction, but like how much of a negative is this impacting our mental health when it comes to AI and any type of like we talk about social media as well.
You want to talk about the negative?
I don't know where do you want to start. We could. All right. How about
tell me what do you think about AI? What kind of feelings come up for you when you think AI?
Straight up, it freaks me out a little bit. Still, I'm a little uncomfortable with it. Maybe it's my age. Generation X, like a lot of this stuff for me is so like it's scary. I remember we talked about what's it called? Chat GPT. My name is Jeff. What's it called?
Chat GPT.
And that was like, you told me how like students were using that to like create papers, and I'm just like, people are creating.
Chat GPT is wild.
Yeah.
So you can make anything. You can create blogs, articles, papers.
We did a logo for our podcast, right? Which I was like, I was like, it's okay, it works. It was like the best logo we had so far. But you look like I said, like an older white male, and I look like Jesse Pinkman. I was like, let's run with that. I look like the young one.
But it was misspelled.
It's such a powerful tool.
Totally.
And maybe because it's like I'm not trained in it, I don't know it well enough, so that's what scares me, like fear of the unknown. But I just feel like it's taking away our authenticity in a lot of ways. So maybe that's why I'm more of a negative. So I think I'm more not scared of it, like the boogeyman scared, but just like I think I feel like if I could do things on my own, I want to do them on my own. So I want to use my own mind. I don't want to have to rely on technology, even though, I mean, when's the last time I pulled out a map? I'm like, sometimes I'll drive to a place. I'm like, I've been there 4 or 5 times, and I'm like, I'll still throw on a Google map here because I know it'll get me there safely.
What scares you about AI?
That it's taken away our authenticity. Like for us to be like genuine human beings and be creative, and we're relying too much on something for that, so you're saying it scares you in that way, like you would feel like we're decreasing as a capacity as a human race, sort of like because of AI. It's sort of making us less skillful, less creative, dumbing us down a little bit.
Dumbing us down, yeah.
I don't know if this is possible. It's probably you could do this, but I'm waiting for the AI therapist to appear.
Yeah. Well, there is already.
See, there you go. Yeah. And that's the thing. Are people are like, well, I hear people talk therapy. Yeah. Like when I say that, let me explain myself. When somebody goes to a therapist a few times.
AI is a therapist.
Yeah.
Not a licensed therapist. I do not condone you going to AI to seek medical, psychiatric, therapeutic advice. So,
well, with that being said, like I think that I was saying, like, have you ever talked to a client who's been to like, let's say they've been to treatment centers, they've been to therapy, they've worked with this, whatever, social worker, life coach, whatever you want to call, And all of a sudden, and we've talked about this so often, like buzzwords, like they'll learn these things, right? They'll understand these sayings, and they'll use it. And listen, this is good mantras to repeat over and over again. But with that being said, I'm like, there's more to like therapy than that, though. Than like therapy is like, it's digging. It's really like looking at the core and continuing to work. So I think it's that. I think there's a scary of like, we get this information and all of a sudden we feel like we become experts on it.
Right.
When we're still people that are needing to seek more and more information and real genuine information, not just like some robot spitting out some cool lines.
Yeah. No, it's and I think there's more depth that you need, right, to be able to, when you talk to a therapist, there's a lot of depth to the conversations that you're having. That I think only two human beings can have, right?
Okay, so, right there, right?
Yeah. So when you're talking to AI, you're talking to a database of information. Yeah, it's intelligent and it learns how to talk and how to. Actually, there's these apps now that are intended to be AI companions, that can sort of like replicate being a friend or even being like a intimate partner of yours. And so there's like with those, I think they're like, I guess you could see there's some benefit to that if you're an isolator or you don't have any friends, you don't feel comfortable getting friends, you get a little bit of a connection with something, but there's a lot of risk in that as well. Like for you to depend on an AI to be a friend, I feel like it almost, like you said, reduces your capacity to build skill. It diminishes even your desire to want to work on like building social skills.
I mean, I think did you just cover right there, right? Those are those. I mean, because as you say this, I'm like, man, the future just freaks me out, dude. Right. Like it's just, it's hard. Listen, I recognize there are benefits and there are positives to most things, right? If all you're seeing is like the negative side of something, there's got to be a good to it. Even like, some bad experiences, you're like, hey, this is a learning experience, right? But yeah, so talking about the negatives and the positives, like, what fucking positive would be an AI therapist?
An AI therapist, maybe some exposure to self-reflective questions that you could ask yourself.
But it's fake.
As you prepare to get into therapy.
It's a rehearsal. I get it. I get that part, but like, you're cheating yourself from the real experience.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you asked me what are some positives, right? So
I don't like it.
Wrong, right? Like rejected. Yeah, no, but yeah, I mean, I think you can always find a positive. Well, in most things. But yeah, with AI, I think some positives could be you could tell AI like, be a therapist, and like, you're a therapist and like, I'm coming to you with this question. I think it gives you like a little disclosure, like, this is not therapy. If you need therapy, go seek help. But then it'll kind of follow up with some prompts. And the positive is like, it maybe gives you, I don't know, maybe it gives you some self-reflective questions to ask yourself, some things to think about. But if you really want to heal from something, like you would do in therapy, then you're going to need a deeper discussion, right? Deeper, even more guidance around some of these questions and how to navigate them.
Yeah, I think good. Once again, frame of reference. You said it. AI is not a licensed professional. No, it is a learning tool.
Yeah, and it's a database.
Yeah, I think that's I'd be cheating myself, or I wouldn't be honest with myself in this conversation if I didn't say, like, I grew up like being a latchkey kid in some ways and watching a lot of television, and I gained a lot of knowledge, I think, at least prompts to gather some knowledge from like watching TV shows. I mean, I've referenced the first time I learned about like therapy was like through The Sopranos, or I just mentioned Eminem. Like, I heard a song and I was like, oh wow, that was the first time I heard a human being talk about their experience on opiates. And I never heard that from another human being in my life because I was in such fear and shame to talk about my problems. It exposed like, oh, you go through what I go through. And that's why sometimes people are so scared to walk into like, a group of AA because they don't know how to do it. So like, once again, these forms of media digital platforms, they can help expose us in a positive way. My fear is those with anxiety, that people that with severe anxiety and depression, and they can't take that real step. Like they're gonna rely on this too much, and it's not long lasting.
Yeah, and we're human beings. Our nature is to connect with other people. Like it's literally in our nature, in our being. And I don't think that AI, maybe it might temporarily relieve some loneliness. Right, we're talking about these AI companions.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that's something that I think you can only really gain through like a human conversation with somebody. Human relationships are an essential need that we have. And yeah. So
was that your stomach right
That
now?
was my stomach. Yeah, can you hear that?
Damn.
Sorry. It was
It's okay. No, I'm not mad at you.
It was
I
the iced
like,
chai latte.
they hit hard right there. I thought it was dropping a diss
I could
track
barely.
right now.
I couldn't even hear it because of my headphones. I could only feel them. So
I was like, "What's up? Was Kendrick in there right now or something?" All right. So we talked about some of the risks and benefits. Anything else we want to lean on the risks or benefits regarding AI? And you mentioned
just that we don't endorse, right? Can we say that? Like, we don't endorse AI.
Let's do it.
Like,
We do not endorse AI as a
companion.
relationship. Yeah, companionship.
Yeah.
Say it again.
we don't endorse AI as a companionship at the Mr. Therapist and the Counselor podcast.
The shit ain't real.
No, if you want some companionship, like, let us know. Like, we will be your companion.
Call him.
Call us.
No, or just watch the podcast.
Or watch the podcast.
We'll
or
be
reach out
that
to us.
person.
Or like, yeah, or like, I don't know. Maybe we might throw an event. I'm always putting ideas out there that I don't. Jesse's like, we haven't
We didn't
talked
talk
about this
yet.
No, but we got your back at
Yeah.
the Mr. Therapist and the Counselor podcast.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't want to say dangerous. We just talked at the very beginning of the podcast. I talked
You're so
about.
fear-based.
I know, I'm so fucking scared right now.
This guy, you're gonna be like shooting all. You're like a Will Smith in iRobot, dude.
Oh, that's another AI reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You can take it
I
anywhere.
don't know. I was like,
Grab the football.
I
go.
thought about
Fumble.
Shia LaBeouf for a minute, and I thought about Shia LaBeouf. Well, he was in that movie,
Yeah.
and he's had some well-known problems. I believe he's in recovery
He is in
himself.
recovery, yeah.
But he did a podcast, not to like refer a different podcast, but he did a podcast called The Real Ones with John Berthal, who's been on Walking Dead, Wolf of Wall Street.
Right.
He's done so much stuff. He was the Punisher. But he talked about when he went to treatment. They took the phone out of his hand. How often do we have our phone by us? Because why? It's a life resource in a lot of ways. I mean, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, my preschool has cameras, or my daycare has cameras, so I'm checking that thing, maybe too much, but to keep an eye on my daughter, so it's very helpful. But he subscribed to the idea of doing somewhat of a digital detox, and that would be like, if you could take the time to take the phone out of your hand or the computer out of your hand. Now, he was able to do it in a facility which wouldn't allow him to get access to it, I would imagine, but he got that phone out of his hand for 60 days. But he talked about how that was so cleansing. And he talked about, like, he could never cultivate silence and how important that was for him to, like, see why he wasn't. Yeah, he felt like social media was so. He used it so much for his number one character defect, which was his ego and everything. Like, he didn't say this on the podcast, but he talked about how, like, what I meant to me when I heard him say that was that, like, let's say the guy's down. Are you ever down and you go to social media and it gives you that, like, that elation of, like, euphoric almost feeling of, like, all right, this will put me in a better mood. So, and I can imagine being a celebrity, if you look at, like, positive things about you or how much people love you, even maybe they didn't love him at times because he was going through some personal shit, but he used that to be, like, his cornerstone of self-esteem, which is something we've talked about.
Yeah, I think that and when it comes to scrolling on social media, it doesn't necessarily have to be enjoyable. Just the newness of the next reel is a new experience. Something that your social media is like 30-second clips. The reels and everything are 30-second clips that are geared to get you to wait and anticipate something. And so that's hitting that reward system inside of your brain, that dopamine. You're getting a hit of that dopamine. So whether it's an enjoyable experience or not, like it's hitting that part of your brain that's like anticipating like what's gonna come, and so it's got you trapped in there, right? Even if so, yeah, the digital detox is important. Did you go through one when you were in treatment? Like a 10-day restriction of your phone?
No, but I told you my story is a little different. I didn't have the opportunity to go to treatment because I had no money and I was broke as shit.
Yeah.
I'm in my 30s. I didn't have insurance.
Okay.
So that's why I told you when I did my detox, it was straight detox from opiates. So I didn't
spacing out.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I was just gonna say no, I didn't get a chance to do that. And I see the resistance of like people getting the phone out of their hands because I work in a treatment program where like the fear of like I have a job, I have like a wife, I have responsibilities, and you know we pose the question of like how responsible have you been though? I'm not trying to undermine like everything that's important to you right now or what pays your rent or your current relationships, even though you've negatively impacted them in some ways because of your drinking and using. But we want you to take a step back and be inside yourself there. And what that means is just a moment to reflect.
So you have your own treatment. So let's say you have your own treatment center, and you're making the policies up, right? And so, like, are you putting in a 30-day no phone policy?
That's a good question. I think like phone use could be used like one time a day.
Okay.
I think like for an hour. Okay. You know, like you get a selected maybe hour block of it.
How much of a percentage do you think having your phone increases having your phone versus taking your phone away? How much percentage does it impact you staying in treatment versus leaving prematurely?
I've seen it like impact the decision making.
Yeah.
And let's be honest.
It's like 90%.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're not fully ready to commit to something like that, that would most definitely be.
Who is fully ready when they're in treatment? Like,
yeah,
I mean maybe there's like a select few, but
yeah, there probably
everyone is in pre-contemplation at that time, right?
Yeah, I think there could be a motivation, but if you have any like wiggle room, you're gonna be like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah,
that's gonna stop me from really fully committing to this. But some people I guess that's a compromise of surrender. There is like people are like, I think it sucks, and I think the rules here suck, but I need to do this. And hopefully it's more self-motivation. Maybe it's not at first. Maybe it's out like loss of a job, going to some kind of institution that's, even though like treatment sometimes feels like a prison, but or like a loss of like a relationship. It's like, all right, I'll give up the phone because I don't want to detox from my husband or wife or from my kids.
So the Counselors Recovery Center, you are putting in a blackout policy for a phone?
No, I mean, I would put in, like I said, I feel like day one they could use the phone for an hour. I wouldn't have an issue with it. No. I don't know. Maybe I could somehow manage it. I don't know how you can manage it.
I think I would. I think I would put a 30-day policy. Like probably a 2-week policy.
Like a 2-week policy, no phone?
2-week policy, no phone, and you get a phone call on a landline.
I think my thing is like if like music though. I think sometimes stuff like that gets.
We got iPods.
Do we?
iPod shuffles.
Do we? Are we bringing those back for this episode or what? Yeah. Come on, dude. Straight up, like most people use their phone as their main.
Of course they do, but there's wiggle room away from that. There's a lesson in that too. Like if you can, like the movie Dodgeball. If you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball. If you could find a way to get 2 weeks through treatment without your phone, you need music. Let's find a way to get you music. Okay. Then you're gonna need that life skill to problem solve in the future.
I could see the argument for that. So I can agree on some level. So I could see what you're saying. I'm not.
You better agree.
I rarely do. Mr. Therapist versus the counselor.
Dude, the digital detox. I need to do a digital detox. Dude, do you know how bad I've been on my phone? My wife tells me sometimes, she's like, "You have a phone addiction."
So let's make a suggestion to our viewers how to digitally detox from you. Now listen,
dude, I'm blind leading the blind over here, dog. I'm telling you.
Well, let's practice that. Let's for your detox. If you do a digital detox, I'm not saying go cold turkey. And I guess in some ways I'm comparing this to addiction.
Define that.
Well, I mean, maybe if you say, hey, I'm not going, make a plan for yourself. Okay. And this is how I'm going to define it, is that like, let's say, hey, at 8 o'clock, I'm going to stop using my phone. And then maybe the next day you say, hey, maybe at 5 o'clock, I'm going to stop using my phone. Right. And then listen, you have to balance all this stuff with your work.
Yeah. And are you doing a time limit there? Like,
maybe you're given blocks of time. Yeah. But how about this? Like, use a reference just like you would be. I look at it as like when I was coming off opiates. I finally was get to a point where I was, because I was running out of drugs, to be straight up here. But I remember one day I was like, I have like 30 pills left, right? So I'm gonna take this many, and the next day and I'll be down to 3. Now, as an addict, it's also hard to really manage that at that point in time because life has become unmanageable. But how about decreasing that, the digital time, from 8 p.m. to 5 p.m. to 1 p.m. to, I don't know if you can get to a point where like I don't need to use my phone all day. Maybe the last step would be like, so at 8 o'clock at night, I'm going to use my phone. I'm not going to use my phone all day. I don't know if we can manage the ability to just say I'm only going to use my phone for maybe specific things, like I will use it for my kid, to contact my wife, and maybe my job.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That might be good for some people.
Yeah. So I mean, there's different digital detoxes on there.
What if you're like an entrepreneur, and like you make money off your phone? Your phone is your business.
What if I just love making excuses as well, right?
I'm not.
Yeah, no.
I'm asking for a solution, bro.
Well, okay. Do you want me to prescribe?
Yeah.
Dr. J
Let's
here.
see. Dr. J.
As gonna give you.
Dr. J sounds so bad.
Well, there's the joke used to call himself Dr. J. Yeah. But no, let's say, why don't you take a weekend and try that? Why don't you cut off your phone at 5 p.m.?
No. No, I'm kidding. No, yeah. Yeah, I think.
When do you need your phone the most?
I need it all the time.
You don't need it all the time.
Yes, I do.
You've prescribed to this idea that you need your phone and digital.
I don't need it all the time, but I don't have like. So I need. This is what I need. I need structure around. Sorry, someone's texting.
Damn, blowing up.
I know, and they're bypassing my like silence. Like it's weird. I need to do a lot of things on my phone. So I think I just need to structure my time. Like for instance, we run the social media page. I get calls coming in randomly.
He's just talking about me right now. He's basically talking about me like bugging the shit out of him, right?
What are you talking about? No. I
personalize everything.
I get phone calls coming in all the time. Shoot, I got family hitting me up. Like, so I feel like phone, maybe you're right in some ways. Like I don't need it, but I do use it a lot. And so I think if I structured it to a certain way where like this is what I got to do a better job at. Dr. J, tell me if I'm right here or not. But like maybe if I structured it, like from this time to this time, any social media stuff that I need to do, any like phone stuff I need to do, you better get it done. Because at this time and this time, like, no phone.
You're a big advocate for writing things down.
Yeah.
I used to remember back in the day when we worked together. And you would have these lists, all right, and you checklists, and they were goals. I think do you still do some of that?
I still do it, yeah.
I think that might be a good opportunity for you to like do a frame of reference of like, okay, this is priority, this is not.
Yeah.
And it's creating that like a schedule of like how can I, when is it appropriate, when is it not appropriate. And listen, I'm not trying to compare a full digital detox to like coming off of alcohol, because I'm not saying like, well, I can have a drink on Saturday, but I won't drink on Monday or Tuesday. But how about this? Maybe
some people might do that though.
I was gonna say that maybe the person that's listening right now is like, I don't have addiction problems. I do have some mental health issues. Right. We all do, right? And you want to start to cut out drinking a little bit. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's a healthy thing to be like, I want to cut back. People have like sober October, and they'll take months or weeks to like do a detox from maybe they're drinking too much, but they don't have like full blast addiction. Because
addiction is a spectrum, right? And
yeah.
So some people are able to manage a little bit of it. They're more functioning than others, and some people are just completely on the other side.
Listen, we could probably all use a little detox from something. Maybe we need to cut out some cake. Maybe we need to cut out some TikTok. Maybe we need to cut out whatever it is. But I think it's okay to like take a break from some things.
Right.
And shit, even self-care. Take a break from like when I say take a break from your relationship or take a break from like being a father, what I mean is we all need self-care in some type of form, and try to find like healthy avenues to do so.
Another reason for taking a break would be, your phone listens to everything you're saying.
I'm picking up on that. I'll tell you that. I feel like I think something, and it's like, whoa, holy shit! I thought about that. How did this appear? So,
and if you think about it, like why it listens to you?
Because there's a chip in me when I got my COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
I'm watched by the government at all times.
All right,
Real quickly, before
let's take a ride to the hospital.
Before we go into that real quickly, I used to remember when clients used to come in and they would talk about, like, they were paranoid, right? They'd be thinking like something was on their phone.
Yeah.
They'd be coming off methamphetamine, and I'd be like, this guy's totally breaking down from, detoxing from methamphetamine.
You're walking away laughing? Like,
I'm like, you sicko. What's wrong with you? Why'd you do meth? Cocaine's so much cleaner and fun. No, I'm kidding. But like, it's just like, it's crazy today is that, and when I, it's in comparison to somebody is actually a little paranoid about their phone, I'd be like, yeah, no shit. You're not coming off methamphetamine. You're just like an American that realizes now that Big Brother is everywhere.
Yeah, 20 years ago, you'd be like, oh, this guy's got some delusions going on.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's true. Yeah, but what the reason for it is, it's a market. It's like there's a market for targeting you for ads, right? So it listens to what your interests are, what your preferences are, and it kind of knows what to target at you. And so if you think about the psychology of marketing, right? Like, marketing is supposed to induce some sort of feeling inside of you. Some people use fear to get you to buy something. Some people use, the feeling of like, oh my gosh, I could be somebody. I could finally fulfill this thing that I've been chasing to get you to buy something. And what do you think the impact is on you experiencing ads and things that are like targeting you and saying, hey, like, be careful for this, be careful for that, or hey, you could finally be that star, get those followers you've been looking for, get that podcast to 1 million views, like, if it's just targeting this part of you, like, that's gotta impact you just mental health wise. Being exposed to that all day.
That's like a digital, like, peer pressure right there. It's kind of like that person saying, like, you could have one drink, or it is. It's
if you have this drink, it's all gonna go away.
Yeah. No, I mean, I see it. Like, there's something where
like my AI voice.
Yeah, it was good. It was kind of like a scary movie, kind of like. But yeah, no, it's a real thing, and it's something we're gonna continue to deal with. Yeah. So that's why sometimes it might be find a way to take a break.
Can I say one of the last things here? And it'll be quick, but we should have someone in here. I have someone in mind for a neurodivergent episode. We could talk about this because they're
like a robot.
No.
Do we bring a robot?
Neurodivergence. No. Neurodivergence just means
what is that?
It's an area in mental health of like when you're helping people who struggle with autism, who struggle with ADHD. We're gonna have an ADHD specialist coming pretty soon, but I've been talking to a lot of people in the mental health field, and we're sort of in agreement that there's been an increase in just clients who have neurodivergent issues, whether it's ADHD or they're on the spectrum. And so we're all kind of like asking ourselves, why is that? And like, a part of me, I'm like, man, it could be the technology that we're kind of sucked into. Like, our time on a screen has gone up significantly over time. Yeah. So we could talk about that at a later time, but
the only thing that else I wanted to, like, is maybe a little off subject, but not at the same time. Like, this is relating once again to like a self-care conversation. But recently, when I had COVID, I remember like I had some time to myself because I had to quarantine from my loved ones because I have young ones, so when I was protective of them. And my wife wanted me to do it, so I was like, of course. But like, I remember, I was like, oh yeah, I was like, I could do this. I was trying to think like things I could do. I was like, I actually have time to read a book. Yeah. I remember I walked in the garage at one point in time. I was like, I have weight. I know. I always say I have no fucking time for books, but I was like, I have time for everything now because that's all I have is time. But I recognize that life goes fast, and it's hard to slow down. Yeah. But you don't have to have a sickness, an illness to finally be like, oh, cool, I have self-care. Because there was a part of me where I was like, I never get to do this. And it shouldn't be like that. And it doesn't have to be like that. Find time to detox, focus on yourself, and find healthy outlets. Because unfortunately, sometimes my self-care is just that scroll of doom, as I've referenced in the past. And there's other things, more healthier things to do.
Yeah, I love that, dude. Yeah. We should start a challenge. Like a
digital detox
media
channel.
Yeah, digital detox challenge.
I was trying to pitch that a little bit, but I didn't really have a good pitch.
I'm down, dude. Yeah. Let's do this.
All right. So
yeah. Remember to subscribe to the show if you like the value. I'm transitioning us out because we always abruptly end.
I like it.
And send us some questions. What do you think about this AI? Is it messing with our heads? What would you do? Let's go.
Check it on your friends.